Welcome to the Finjan Show. I'm your host, Faris Alami. And in this episode, we're going to discuss something that's close and dear to my heart and to many of you, those who are starting or growing businesses. The topic is entrepreneurship burnout. You might think, Faris, I don't get burned out. The truth is we all get burned out. We all have a cycle that we go through. And what I'd like for you to think about is, what do you do when the burnout comes, or when you start feeling that you're becoming burnt out? The burnout comes from lots of factors. Most of us entrepreneurs starting or growing businesses, I'm going to call it, or even working in a corporation, but have an entrepreneurship, I'm going to call it mindset. We get burned out because we get to do things all the time. Your brain is always looking for opportunities or problems to solve or opportunities to create. So you might be showing up for a book reading, and you're reading something about something completely different, and you start thinking, whoa, I wonder what happens if I apply some of these concepts to my business. Even though it had nothing to do with your business, you might just think about the strategies that they approached, or the way that they did something, or how they did something, or why they did something. You start analyzing it on your own, and you may come up with a new idea. Well, that becomes work. And you might not think of it work because you love what you do, or you enjoy what you do, or you're doing it because you have no choice but to do it. It's still work. And with that comes burnout. Now, have I seen it personally? I've been burned out many times, right? Many of the business that I've done, I got burned out. My first one I'll never forget, it was with my perfume business. I personally got burned out because I was working 7 days a week, 7 years. And then my supplier was shortchanging me with cash. So at one point, you just give in, and you're like, okay, I can't, there's no reason to do this. I don't even know why I'm doing it. And you just get burned out. Sometimes you don't have the luxury to even think or reflect on it. You just move from one thing or another. And that happened with my t-shirt business. I went from t-shirts to perfume without really transitioning to anything, just kept going. And looking back, I probably was burned out from doing t-shirts, but at the time didn't see it or didn't recognize it. I'm bringing this up to you because I've seen this with so many entrepreneurs. They're working day in and day out, and they don't really recognize that they A, are burned out, or B, are getting close to being burned out. So there are a few things that you could do to help you ease the burnout as you continue to grow or start your business. Some of the lessons I learned from some of the entrepreneurs is I had a couple of them took 1 week off every year in the middle of the year, and then 1 week off at the end of the year. And one of them, I'll never forget, they just went camping on their own, no one else, just in the wilderness. Another booked a hotel room and went on vacation. So everyone is different. I'm using these two examples because I want you to think what would work for you to slow down the burnout. As we continue this discussion, I'm hoping that I'm exciting you about recognizing the burnout. I know it's maybe not a topic that you would like to discuss or a topic that you want to bring up, but I feel like it's important to be aware of it, because the more you are aware, the better it is for you to handle it. Let's take a break, continue these discussions about entrepreneurship burnout. Thank you for being with us. Welcome back. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host, Faris Alami, and this is the Finjan Show. We're discussing today entrepreneurship burnout and ways to obviously eliminate it or be aware of it, so therefore you could navigate it. And I always say that navigation is the key. We're all going to face challenges, and how we navigate them becomes the key. In one of the episodes in the past, I talked about leadership and how leaders sometimes choose to face the challenges, or how sometimes leaders choose to escape the challenge. No right or wrong, it's just different. And the impact are the communities that they live in and what happens with them. In this case, entrepreneurship burnout, it also affects you, but it does also affect your community. Let me explain. You are in a restaurant, and you are running a restaurant for 7, 10, 15 years, or whatever number is. And then you get burned out for lack of cash, lack of passion. You don't have to do it anymore, whatever reason, and you decide to leave. Sure, you might have affected your personal journey, but in this case, you actually also affected the community that you live in, because it probably was a meeting place. It was a place where people came and celebrated things. It was a place where people came together for maybe to grieve on something. You were a convenient for many people living in your community. So you actually impacted them. And the reason I want to bring this up to you, because whether it's a restaurant, a technology, or anything else in between, it's really a burnout will happen. And now how do you avoid it? Well, you can't avoid it, but you can be aware of it so you can maybe navigate it. And if it's time for you to shift gears, maybe rather than shutting down, maybe it could be an opportunity for you to exit, selling it to another person, or transitioning it to another community, or selling it to another, or giving it even to another person if you don't want to sell it, rather than the option of just shutting down. So how do you do that? A, be aware that burnout happens. B, acknowledge that you may go through it at one point or another. I've also worked with so many wonderful entrepreneurs that initially came to the programs with us and they thought they were awesome and they were going. And then about a weekend, recognized that they were burned out. And the only reason why they came to this program, because they thought maybe it'll give them a different directions. And many of them have told me after week 1 or week 2, or even week 3 or week 13, that Faris, one of the things that came to my attention is that I actually got rejuvenated towards my business. I now becoming to love it more than I even did a few weeks ago or a few years ago. I'm also getting more excited about my business than I was a year ago. And the reason for that, because when you take the time to, I'm going to call it transition from an entrepreneur to a business owner, or to an investor of your business or whatever, you start recognizing the awesome milestones that you've accomplished, and also the holes that you may have to fill and the needs that you need to do. In addition, which is the most important part, is that it doesn't have to be done today, because you understand it's a process. And once you recognize it's a process, you now can plan, all right, I don't want to get burned out working 7 days a week. I don't want to burn out working 14, 16-hour days. So what am I going to do? Some might choose to take vacation. Some might choose to have a network. Some might choose to go with other entrepreneurs and hang out. Find, I'm going to call it a haven that you can escape to get reignited, rejuvenated for your business and come back. Now, it could be sometimes within the same space. It could be sometimes that you have to go somewhere else, but be aware of it, because if you're not, it's going to take you off guard. And having some of these training programs that we offer, obviously not only my company, but many companies out there, many communities out there offer these kinds of programs, could potentially be one place for you to reignite your business by connecting you to other entrepreneurs within the space that you're in, and spending the time looking at your business from a strategic perspective versus just everyday operation. Till next time, tune in with us and stay in touch. I'm your host, Faris Alami, and this is the Finjan Show. See you soon.